Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something massive. And I don't mean massive like, the Roman Empire or the Industrial Revolution, though we are definitely going to talk about those things. I mean massive in the sense that it is the single most important driver of your entire existence. And yet, historians almost never talk about it.
It is the unasked question of history. It's the ghost in the machine.
Exactly. Think about it. We spend years in school learning about empires rising, technology advancing, economies booming. We track production, we track power, we track territory.
We have graphs for GDP and charts for population growth, all the externals.
Right, all the externals. But we rarely stop to ask the one question that actually matters. Did any of it actually make us happier?
It is a fascinating blind spot. If you look at standard history books, they are catalogs of doing. Humans did this, then they built that, then they conquered them. But history is rarely a catalog of feeling.
And we just assume.
We just assume. It's this silent assumption underlying everything, that because we have more power and more stuff, we must be happier. But is that actually true?
That is the hook for today.
Yeah.
We are doing a deep dive into the history of happiness. And to kick this off, I want to try a little experiment. I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
I want to take you to two very specific, very different moments in history.
Okay, I'm ready. Where are we going first?
First, we are going to July 1969, the Sea of Tranquility. Neil Armstrong is climbing down that ladder. He is wearing a spacesuit that cost billions of dollars to develop. He is breathing recycled oxygen. He is standing on a world that isn't his own.
The absolute pinnacle of human achievement.
Yeah.
The moment we lift a cradle, it's just iconic.
Exactly. He has the eyes of the entire species on him. He is effectively a god in that moment. He leaves that footprint in the gray dustum mark that will last for millions of years. It's triumphant.
It's the ultimate we did it moment.
Right. Now, freeze that image. Hold it in your mind.
Okay, frozen.
Now, I want to snap you back 30,000 years. We are in the Chauvet-Pont d'Arc cave in southern France. It's pitch black, damp. The air smells like wet limestone, smoke from a torch, and maybe the musk of cave bears that sleep there in the winter.
Right. It's a completely different sensory world.
Totally. And there is a woman there. We don't know her name. We don't know her language. But she presses her hand against the cold rock wall. She takes a mouthful of red pigment and she blows it over her hand.
A signature across time.
Exactly. She pulls her hand away and there it is, a negative handprint. A signature.
It's haunting. I've seen photos of those. It looks like it was made yesterday. It's so immediate.
So here is the question that our source material poses today. And honestly, it's the question that kind of broke my brain this week.
Uh-oh.
If you could teleport into Neil Armstrong's head in that moment of triumph, and then teleport into that hunter-gatherer woman's head, who is happier?
It feels like a trick question, because my modern brain immediately screams Neil. It has to be Neil.
Why? Why does your brain say Neil?
I mean, look at the context. Antibiotics, air conditioning, the fact that he isn't worried about a saber-toothed tiger eating his children. Neil represents victory over nature. The hunter-gatherer is arguably a victim of nature, just scratching out of survival.
Right.
Neil has completed a quest humanity dreamed of for millennia. The dopamine hit must have been astronomical, just off the charts.
That is exactly what I thought. I thought, well, obviously the guy with the spaceship is having a better time than the woman living in a cave. But our source material today suggests that this assumption, this instinct that history gets better, might be the single biggest delusion of our species.
It suggests that if we look at the biological and psychological mechanisms that actually determine well-being, the hunter-gatherer might have been just as happy, or perhaps even happier, than the modern astronaut.
To guide us through this existential crisis, we are diving deep into Chapter 19 of Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, titled, "And They Lived Happily Ever After."
A classic.
And our mission today is pretty clear. We are going to debunk the myth that more stuff equals more joy.
We're going to break this down into 4 distinct ways of looking at happiness. We'll look at the material view, money, and health. Then the psychological view, which is all about expectations.
Okay.
Then the biological view, which gets into brain chemistry. And finally, the philosophical view, which asks about the meaning of life.
So, buckle up. We are about to deconstruct your entire worldview on progress. Let's start with that word, progress. We're raised on this narrative that history is a march towards better.
The Whig interpretation of history, as it's sometimes called, the idea that history is a single line moving from barbarism to civilization, from ignorance to knowledge, and therefore, inevitably, from misery to happiness.
It seems obvious, right? I mean, I have air conditioning, I have a fridge full of food, I have anesthesia if I need surgery. Surely I am happier than a medieval peasant who was covered in lice and starving half the time.
You think so?
If I had to choose where to live, I'm picking the 21st century every time. No question.
That is the progressive narrative. But the source material introduces a counter-argument, often called the romantic narrative or the reverse correlation.
This is the idea that we've actually ruined things, that we took a wrong turn somewhere.
Essentially, yes. The argument goes that evolution spent millions of years molding our bodies and minds to live as hunter-gatherers. We were designed to run, to climb, to hunt, to live in small, tight-knit groups of maybe 50 to 100 people.
Generalists.
We were designed to be generalists, knowing every plant and animal in our valley.
Right. And then about 10,000 years ago, we invented agriculture.
And suddenly we forced ourselves into unnatural lives. Instead of roaming free, we're breaking our backs in wheat fields, doing repetitive labor our bodies weren't built for.
We started living in filth, close to animals, which brought disease.
And then came the Industrial Revolution, and it got even more extreme. Now we're stuck in factories or offices, sitting in chairs for 8 hours a day, staring at screens, completely disconnected from the natural world.
The argument is that this creates a deep, fundamental discord. We are alienated from our nature.
Exactly. Think about the thrill of a hunt. A hunter-gatherer on a successful mammoth hunt experienced a cocktail of wild excitement, physical exertion, and sheer joy that a modern urbanite simply cannot replicate.
I mean, I felt pretty good when I got my new espresso machine delivered last week, but I see your point. It's not exactly a life or death triumph.
And that's the romantic critique. Buying a new car is nice, but does it trigger the same primal victory circuits as taking down a beast to feed your tribe? Every new invention, according to this view, just puts another mile between us and the Garden of Eden.
We have comfort, but we've lost contentment.
We have safety, but we've lost the thrill.
However, our source points out that this romantic view is also a bit of a trap. It's easy to romanticize the cave when you aren't dying of a tooth infection at age 25.
Absolutely. We can't just ignore the benefits of modernity. And the biggest counterpoint, the statistic that stops the romantic argument in its tracks, is child mortality.
This was the stat that really sobered me up. It's just brutal.
Until very recently, child mortality was around 33%. 1 in 3 children didn't make it to adulthood. In some periods and places, it was closer to 50%.
1 in 3.
Today, in the developed world, it's less than 5%.
That is huge. You can't tell me that a mother in 10,000 BC who watched 3 of her kids die of dysentery was happier than a modern mother who expects all her kids to survive.
No.
That level of grief is catastrophic. It just breaks the scale.
Precisely. The reduction of suffering, real, physical, gut-wrenching suffering, is undeniable. So a nuanced view has to find a middle ground. Maybe we lost some primal joy and maybe we are more bored or anxious, but we gained immense security.
Right.
We aren't burying our children at the same rate. That has to count for something.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The source makes a point about sample size. We look at history and say, look how great things are. We have penicillin and iPhones. But we are looking at a tiny, tiny slice of time.
We are. The golden age of modern medicine, no large-scale famines, relative peace. This is really a phenomenon of the last few decades.
Not even a century.
Maybe since 1850 for the elites, but really since 1950 for the majority of the West. That is a blink of an eye in evolutionary time.
And we are also biased by who we are. When we judge modernity, we picture ourselves. Middle class, comfortable, probably living in a Western-style democracy.
We are the winners of history.
We are. We don't picture the 19th century Welsh coal miner destroying his lungs in the dark for 14 hours a day. We don't picture the Chinese opium addict in the 1800s.
We don't picture the Tasmanian Aborigine being hunted down by European settlers. The source uses a very striking comparison. Trugani versus Homer Simpson.
Break that down for us. I think most people know Homer, but who was Trugani?
Trugani was a Tasmanian Aboriginal woman who lived in the 19th century. Her life was just a cascade of tragedy. Her people were systematically wiped out during the British colonization, literally hunted for sport in some cases.
Oh, my God.
Her mother was killed by sailors. Her intended husband was killed while saving her from abduction. She died as the last full-blooded Tasmanian Aboriginal, having watched her entire world, her culture, her family, extinguished.
That is a level of suffering that is hard to even comprehend.
Now contrast that with Homer Simpson. He represents the modern middle-class Westerner. He has a steady job, a house, a car, plenty of food. Too much food, really.
He's safe.
He is safe. But he's also portrayed as vacant, unfulfilled, constantly distracted, somewhat miserable in a low-level way.
So the comparison is, has progress been worth it? Has the trade-off worked?
If you compare the modern middle class to the hunter-gatherer, maybe it's a toss-up. We have better medicine. They had better mental health. But if you include the millions of people crushed by the years of progress, the colonization, the industrial slavery, the people like Trugani, the equation looks very different.
Was the modern world worth the genocide of the Tasmanians? Was it worth the Atlantic slave trade?
It forces you to look at the cost.
And speaking of the cost and being crushed by the gears of progress, there is one group of victims we almost always forget when we calculate global happiness.
The animals.
This part of the source material was heavy. It argues that our unprecedented accomplishments, our ability to feed billions, our medical advances are built on a foundation of unprecedented cruelty.
It's a staggering thought. In terms of pure numbers, we have domesticated billions of animals. Cows, pigs, chickens. And for the vast majority of them, life is an industrial nightmare.
We aren't talking about old McDonald's farm here. This isn't a children's book.
No. We are talking about sows in gestation crates who can't turn around for their entire lives. Dairy cows who are separated from their calves shortly after birth over and over until they are spent.
Chickens on conveyor belts.
Chickens on conveyor belts. The text says something provocative. If we accept even a tenth of animal rights claims, modern industrial agriculture might be the greatest crime in history.
Wow, that's...
Think about that. We are trying to measure if the world is a happier place. If you only survey the humans, maybe the line goes up slightly because of antibiotics and Netflix, but if you include the subjective experience of every sentient being we control.
If you count the cows and the chickens as beings who can suffer.
Exactly. If you put their suffering on the scale, the graph of global happiness might have crashed through the floor during the Industrial Revolution.
We might be living in the era of maximum suffering simply because we have bred billions of beings just to suffer.
It really forces you to widen your lens.
You can't just ask, is the guy with the iPhone happy? You have to ask, is the system that produced the iPhone and the burger he's eating creating a net positive for the planet's consciousness?
And that leads us to the problem of measurement. Even if we stick to humans, how do you measure happiness? You can't stick a thermometer in someone's mouth and get a joy reading.
Right, it's subjective. So how do social scientists actually do it? Because they claim to have data on this.
Mostly, they just ask. It's called subjective well-being, or SWB. They give you a questionnaire with statements like, I feel satisfied with my life, I feel life is good, or I am optimistic about the future. And you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10.
It sounds a bit simplistic, doesn't it? Hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your life? I feel like my answer would change depending on if I've had my coffee yet.
It is simplistic, and it's open to huge cultural biases.
Yeah.
But when you do it with millions of people over decades, patterns do emerge. And the first big pattern they look for was the obvious one, money. Does money buy happiness?
The age-old question. We all say money doesn't buy happiness, but we all act like it does. What does the data say?
The answer is yes, but with a massive asterisk.
Oh, okay.
Money buys happiness only up to a point.
Okay, let's unpack that. Where's the line?
It's the line where your basic needs are met and you have some security. Think about it this way. Imagine an American single mother cleaning houses for, say, $12,000 a year. She is stressed about rent, food, debt. She can't fix her car if it breaks. If she wins $500,000 in the lottery, her happiness score is going to skyrocket.
Because the money is actually solving problems. Real, tangible problems.
Exactly. It removes pain. It removes anxiety. She moves from survival mode to living. That happiness tends to stick because her daily reality has fundamentally changed. She isn't hungry. She isn't cold.
Now, compare that to the CEO.
Right. Take a top executive making $250,000 a year. If he wins $1 million in the lottery or gets a massive bonus, sure, he'll get a spike of dopamine. He'll feel great for a few weeks.
Of course.
He'll buy a fancier car. He'll switch from California Cabernet to Chateau Petrus wine. He'll stay in better hotels.
But does his happiness score stay up?
No, it drifts back down. Because does his day-to-day experience of life fundamentally change? No. He was already eating well. He was already safe.
The source says it eventually just becomes routine.
Exactly. The thrill fades.
Yeah.
You get used to the leather seats in the new car. You get used to the expensive wine. It becomes the new normal. And this is the trap of materialism.
We think the upgrade will change our lives.
But it usually just changes our standards.
So once you're out of poverty, money is a law of diminishing returns. What about health? We assume sick people are miserable and healthy people are happy. That seems like a safe bet.
Again, it's nuanced. Illness causes misery in the short term. Obviously, if you break your leg or get the flu, your happiness drops. But the data shows that for long-term happiness, illness only matters if it is constantly deteriorating or involves constant pain.
So if you have a chronic condition but it's stable, you adapt.
You adapt. Humans are adaptation machines. The source gives a great hypothetical scenario here involving two twins, Lucy and Luke.
Right, I remember this. Walk us through this scenario.
Okay, so Lucy and Luke are middle-class twins. They participate in a happiness study. They both rate their happiness as a 7 out of 10. On the way home, disaster strikes for Lucy.
Oh.
Her car is hit by a bus. She survives, but she is crippled. She has a permanent limp. Maybe she needs a cane or a wheelchair. She'll never run again.
That's a nightmare scenario. Devastating.
At the exact same moment, Luke gets a phone call. He won the lottery. $10 million.
So day one, Lucy is in the hospital, devastated. Luke is popping champagne, ecstatic. The gap is huge.
Day one, the gap is massive. Lucy's at a 2, Luke is at a 10. But here's the kicker. 2 years later, the researchers come back. Lucy is still limping. Luke is still rich. But when they fill out that questionnaire,
They're back to where they started.
they likely report the exact same level of happiness they had before the accident and the lottery win. They're both back at a 7.
That is incredibly counterintuitive. We think these external events change us forever.
But they don't. Lucy has adapted to the limp. It's just how she walks now. She still has friends. She still enjoys her coffee. She still watches movies. And Luke,
It's adapted to the wealth.
he has adapted to the wealth. It's just his bank balance.
So if money doesn't stick and health doesn't stick, what does? What actually moves the needle long term?
Community. The data is very strong on this. Family and community seem to be more important than health or wealth. A good marriage correlates heavily with high happiness.
Really?
In fact, an impoverished invalid who has a loving spouse and a tight-knit community might actually be happier than a lonely billionaire who is perfectly healthy.
And this brings us back to the critique of modernity. We have gained freedom. I can move to any city, take any job, marry anyone I want. But the flip side is, I can also easily disconnect.
We have traded security for freedom. In the past, you were stuck with your tribe. That could be oppressive, sure. If you didn't fit in, it was hell.
Right, you couldn't escape.
But you were never alone. Today, we can choose our neighbors, which means we can also choose to be strangers. We are richer than ever, but we are lonelier than ever. And that loneliness might be canceling out all the happiness we gained from our air conditioning and antibiotics.
This leads us perfectly into the next segment. We've talked about money and community, but there is a psychological mechanism that seems to override everything else. The expectation trap.
Yes, this is possibly the most important concept in the whole deep dive. If you take one thing away from this, let it be this formula.
Lay it on us.
Happiness equals objective conditions divided by subjective expectations.
Happiness, conditions, expectations. So it's a ratio. It's not an absolute number.
It's a ratio. And that explains why we aren't happier than our ancestors. If your conditions improve, but your expectations balloon at the same time, your happiness stays the same.
You are running in place.
You are running in place. This is the treadmill, the hedonic treadmill. When things get better, we don't just say, great, I'm satisfied. We say, great, what's next?
The source used a vivid comparison here. The medieval peasant versus the modern banker.
Let's visualize this. Picture that medieval peasant again. He lives in a mud hut. It's unheated. It overlooks the pigsty. He smells the pigs all day.
Sounds miserable to me.
But ask yourself, does he think he's miserable? He expects the mud hut. He expects the pig smell. His father lived in a mud hut. His neighbors live in mud huts. The king lives in a stone castle, sure, but that's the king.
It's just reality for him.
For a peasant, if the roof doesn't leak and the pig is healthy, he is content. His conditions meet his expectations.
Now, cut to the Parisian banker.
He lives in a penthouse overlooking the Champs-Élysées. He has the latest gadgets, the finest food, climate control. But let's say he comes home and his dishwasher's broken. Or he didn't get the bonus he expected. He got $50,000 instead of $100,000.
He is furious. He's having the worst day of his life.
He is miserable. He feels deprived. He feels like the world is treating him unfairly.
Because he expects perfection.
Exactly. The peasant is content with a mud hut. The banker is miserable with a broken dishwasher because the banker's expectations have risen to meet his conditions.
We aren't happier because we have dishwashers. We just have higher expectations for convenience.
And that creates a whole new category of potential suffering.
There was a really funny point about cleanliness in the text. We look back at history and think, oh my God, they didn't shower. They must have been disgusted with themselves.
But they weren't. The text points out that medieval peasants didn't mind the smell of unwashed bodies or long unlaundered shirts. It was just the smell of people. We find it abhorrent because we have been conditioned to expect sterility.
The source compared it to our pets. We love our dogs, right? We hug them, we kiss them. But dogs don't shower every day. They don't use deodorant. They don't change their coats.
Yet we don't recoil in horror when a dog jumps on the couch. We adjust our expectations for the dog. But for humans, we have created a standard of hygiene that our ancestors couldn't dream of.
Has it made us happier?
No.
Yeah.
It has just made us less tolerant of smells.
Yeah.
We created a new source of potential misery body odor that didn't exist for the peasant.
And speaking of impossible standards, let's talk about the visual source we have. The giant billboard of Cristiano Ronaldo.
The Ronaldo effect.
Right.
This is a perfect example of how mass media distorts our expectations and kills our happiness.
So the text asks us to imagine an 18-year-old guy in a village 5,000 years ago.
Right. He's 18. He looks around his village. There may be 50 other men. Most of them are old, scarred, wrinkled, or they're little kids.
Not a lot of competition.
He's young. He's got all his teeth. He's strong. Compared to that sample group, he feels pretty good about himself. He thinks, hey, I'm the catch of the village.
But today,
An 18-year-old looks at his phone. He sees Cristiano Ronaldo in his underwear on a billboard. He sees movie stars. He sees supermodels. He isn't comparing himself to the guys in his neighborhood.
he's comparing himself to the entire planet.
He is comparing himself to the most genetically gifted, photoshopped, and curated human beings on the planet.
And you can't win that comparison.
You can't. Even if you are objectively good-looking, your reference group is impossible. So objectively, you are better groomed and have better teeth than your ancestor. But subjectively, you feel inadequate. You feel ugly.
Because your expectations are set by global celebrities, not local reality.
And this expectation gap actually has massive political implications, too. The source mentioned the Egyptian Revolution of 2011.
This is a fascinating historical puzzle. If you look at the statistics, under Hosni Mubarak, the average Egyptian was materially much better off than their ancestors under the pharaohs.
Much better off. They had lower infant mortality, higher literacy, more calories.
So by the logic of material progress, they should have been happy.
They should have been dancing in the streets, thanking Allah for the blessings of modernity. But they weren't. They were furious. They revolted. Why?
They weren't comparing themselves to ancient Egyptians.
They were watching TV. They were comparing themselves to people in Obama's America or Western Europe. They saw what was possible elsewhere.
So their expectations had outpaced their reality.
Massively. The gap between what I have and what I think I should have was huge. That gap creates revolution.
It seems like expectations are the enemy of happiness. And the source takes this to the ultimate extreme.
Immortality.
The curse of immortality. Science is working on extending life, maybe one day curing death. We assume this is the ultimate dream.
Living forever young. Who wouldn't want that?
But apply the expectation formula. If death is inevitable, we accept it. It's like gravity. The poor and oppressed have always taken comfort in the fact that at least the rich guy dies too.
Death is the great equalizer.
But if death becomes curable,
Then death becomes a failure. A choice, even. It becomes a failure. And if the rich can buy eternal youth and the poor can't, the rage will be uncontrollable. The inequality would be infinite.
and what about the rich who can afford it?
They won't be blissful. They will be terrified
Why terrified?
because they have infinite time to lose. If you can live forever, crossing the street becomes a massive risk. Riding in a car is a gamble. You become risk-averse to the point of paralysis because an accident doesn't just cost you 40 years, it costs you eternity.
Every moment would be shadowed by the terror of losing the prize.
Wow, so the cure for death would actually create a world of rage for the poor and anxiety for the rich. High expectations, high stakes, low happiness.
Okay, let's pivot. We've looked at the material stuff. We've looked at the psychological expectations. Now we need to get under the hood. Let's talk about the hard science, the biological view.
This is where we stop talking about feelings and start talking about chemicals. Serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin.
The biologists argue that happiness isn't about your job or your marriage. It's a set point.
Right. The theory is that our mood is like an internal air conditioning system.
I love this analogy. Break it down.
Okay, so imagine everyone has a biochemical thermostat. Some people are genetically set to 25 degrees Celsius, sunny, cheerful, resilient. They are the people who smile in traffic.
And some people are set lower.
Some people are set to 20 degrees, a bit gloomy, anxious, melancholic.
And life events are just the weather.
Exactly. Winning the lottery is a heat wave. It warms you up for a bit. But eventually, the AC kicks in and brings you back to your set point. A car accident is a cold snap. It freezes you for a while. But eventually, the AC warms you back up to your set point.
So the cheerful person who loses their legs might eventually be happier than the gloomy person who wins the lottery.
That is exactly what the biological view suggests. Happiness is determined by genetics, not circumstances.
Okay, I have to stop you there, because this is the part of the book where I actually got a little annoyed.
Annoyed. Why?
Because it sounds reductive. You're telling me that if I lose my legs today, or if my house burns down, my brain is just going to shrug and say, oh, well, back to my genetic set point. That doesn't feel true to the human experience. Grief is real. Misery is real.
It feels like this theory ignores the reality of suffering.
It does.
You're right, and the source isn't saying grief doesn't exist. It's talking about duration and function. Let's look at the mechanism. It's not magic, it's evolution. Think about what happiness actually is biologically.
It's a feeling.
No, to a biologist, it's a specific cocktail. Serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. It is a reward system. Now, imagine you're a hunter-gatherer. You see a beehive full of honey high up in a tree.
Okay, I want the honey.
Why?
Because it tastes good.
Right. But why does it taste good? Evolution engineered your brain to release a massive hit of dopamine when you eat high-calorie sugar. It's a bribe.
A bribe.
Your genes are bribing you to take the risk, climb the tree, and get the energy to survive.
Okay, that makes sense. It's an incentive.
But here is the crucial part, the part that explains why you got annoyed. What happens if that dopamine hit lasts forever?
I guess. I just sit there, smiling.
You would sit there, smiling, drooling, high on honey dopamine, until a lion ate you or you died of thirst. You wouldn't reproduce. You wouldn't hunt again. You wouldn't build a shelter.
So the happiness has to break. It has to be temporary.
It has to evaporate. The system is designed to return to zero. It is designed to make you dissatisfied again, so you go find more honey. We are built to strive, not to settle.
That is incredibly depressing. You're saying we are biologically hardwired to never be permanently satisfied.
That is the set point theory. And that is why the lottery winner eventually stops buzzing. The biological bribe wears off so they can go out and try to win again.
This makes history seem kind of pointless, doesn't it, if we're just stuck in this loop?
That is the provocative conclusion. If happiness is just a serotonin level, then the French Revolution changed nothing.
The French revolutionaries chop off the king's head, declare the rights of man, redistribute the land, and the average Frenchman's serotonin level stays exactly the same.
The biologist would say, you changed the external political structure, but you didn't change the internal biochemical structure. So a medieval peasant and a modern banker likely have the same average serotonin levels. The hardware hasn't changed.
So if we really wanted to make the world happier, we shouldn't be starting revolutions or passing laws. We should be investing in drugs.
Yeah, biological manipulation. If the problem is the thermostat, change the thermostat. If politics can't raise the temperature, maybe pharmacology can. And this brings us to Brave New World.
Aldous Huxley's novel. I remember reading this in high school. The drug Soma.
Exactly. In the book, everyone takes a drug called Soma. It makes them happy. No side effects, no hangovers, just pure contentment.
And there is no war, no rebellion. Everyone is productive. It's stable.
On paper, it is a utopia. Everyone is happy all the time. But when we read it, we feel repulsed. We feel like it's monstrous.
Why is that? If happiness is just chemicals, and Soma fixes the chemicals, Soma is the perfect solution. Why do we recoil from it? Why do we feel like something is wrong with a world where everyone is drugged into happiness?
Because intuitively, we value something more than just feeling good. We feel that a happiness earned through struggle or truth is superior to a happiness bought with a pill.
We want our happiness to reflect reality, not mask it.
Which implies that happiness isn't just about pleasure. There is a deeper layer. And that leads us to the meaning of life.
Segment 5. Meaning versus pleasure.
There was a famous study by Daniel Kahneman mentioned in the source. He looked at raising children.
Oh, the parenting paradox. I've heard of this.
Right. If you measure parenting minute by minute, changing diapers, dealing with tantrums, washing dishes, the sleep deprivation, it is largely drudgery.
It's work.
It is unpleasant in a sensory way.
I think any parent listening can attest to the drudgery part. It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
But if you ask parents, what is your primary source of happiness? They say, my children.
So the math doesn't add up. The minutes are miserable, but the life is happy.
It only adds up if happiness isn't just about sensory pleasure. It's about meaning. As Nietzsche said, if you have a why to live, you can bear almost anyhow.
So the struggle of parenting is bearable because it has a high meaning value. We feel like it matters.
Exactly. We are willing to suffer if we believe the suffering matters. A meaningful life can be satisfying even in the midst of hardship. A meaningless life is a terrible ordeal, even if it's comfortable.
But the source takes a cynical turn here. It calls meaning a collective delusion.
It does. It asks, where does meaning come from? From a purely scientific perspective, the universe has no purpose. We are just biological accidents on a rock spinning around a star. There is no script.
So when I say my life has meaning because I'm raising good kids or my life has meaning because I'm building a company, that's just a story I tell myself.
It's a story.
Yeah.
And usually it's a story we borrow from our culture. This brings us to the quote that I think might be the darkest sentence in the entire book.
I think I know which one you mean. It's a real gut punch.
Harari writes, "Happiness is simply synchronizing your personal delusion with the prevailing collective delusion of your time."
That is brutal. It basically says, you're crazy, but as long as you're the same kind of crazy as your neighbors, you'll be happy.
Precisely. But let's unpack why he calls it a delusion. Look at the medieval peasant again. He builds a cathedral. It's backbreaking work. He's hungry. He is tired. But he is arguably happy. Why?
Because he believes he is serving God. He believes there's a shiny afterlife waiting for him.
Right. Now, Harari asks, is that true? Objectively.
Well, scientifically, we have no proof of the afterlife, so maybe not.
So the peasant is working for a fantasy, but because everyone else believes the fantasy, his suffering has meaning. I am suffering for a purpose. Now, fast forward to today.
The modern worker.
You are a modern worker. You are stressed, answering emails at midnight, missing your kid's soccer game. Why?
Because I want to big my company. I want to leave a legacy. I want to change the world.
And Harari looks at you and says, that is just the modern cathedral. The company is a fiction. Legacy is a story. Changing the world is a narrative.
But it feels real to me.
Just like God felt real to the peasant. That's the trap. If you were a medieval peasant who said, I don't care about God, I want to build a startup, you'd be miserable and an outcast. You would be insane.
And if I am a modern worker who says, I don't care about money, I'm going to go pray in a cave, I'd be institutionalized.
Exactly. Happiness isn't about truth. It's about alignment. As long as your internal story matches society's external story, you feel meaning. When they drift apart, that's when the crisis hits. That's when you feel alienated.
So we've covered the treadmill, the chemicals, and the delusions. Is there any way out of this trap? Because right now it feels like we are either biological robots or delusional storytellers.
There's one more perspective. It's a philosophical curveball, the Buddhist perspective.
Know thyself.
First, we have to look at how we view our feelings today.
Right.
We live in the age of liberalism. And I don't mean left-wing politics. I mean the philosophical idea that the individual is supreme.
The Disney philosophy, follow your heart, trust your feelings, inside out, all that.
Right. We are taught that our feelings are the ultimate authority. If it feels good, it is good. If it feels bad, it is bad. If you feel something, it is valid.
But historically, this is weird, right? This is a new idea.
Very rare. Christianity, for example, taught that feelings were dangerous. St. Paul didn't say follow your heart. He said the flesh is sinful. You shouldn't trust your gut. You should trust God.
Or Freud.
Or Freud. Freud said you shouldn't trust your feelings because they're just subconscious traumas acting out. You should trust the therapist.
So where does Buddhism fit in?
Buddhism agrees with biology on one thing. Happiness comes from within. It's not about the car or the money, but it disagrees on the solution.
Biology says, modify the chemicals to get pleasant feelings, Buddhism says.
Buddhism says, stop chasing the feelings.
The pursuit is the problem.
The core insight of Buddhism is that feelings, pleasure, pain, joy, sadness, are impermanent. They are vibrations. They come and they go.
Like waves in the ocean.
Exactly. The source uses this beautiful image of a man standing in the surf. He is trying to hug the good waves, the pleasure, and stop them from leaving. And he's trying to push back the bad waves, the pain, and stop them from hitting him.
That sounds exhausting and impossible.
It's futile. You are fighting the ocean. You will always lose. The good waves will recede no matter how hard you hold them. The bad waves will come no matter how hard you push.
So what is the solution?
The Buddhist solution is to stop fighting. Sit on the sand, let the waves come and let them go. Observe them.
So true happiness isn't feeling good.
No. True happiness is the cessation of craving. It is understanding that you are not your feelings. If you stop identifying with the waves, if you stop thinking, I am sad, and start thinking sadness is happening right now, you find a serenity that is deeper than mere pleasure.
It's a radical shift. We usually think happiness is the peak of the wave. Buddhism says happiness is the ocean beneath it.
Precisely. That's a perfect way to put it.
So let's try to wrap our heads around all this. We have gone through a lot of history and philosophy here, a lot of different perspectives.
We have. It's a lot to take in.
We started with the material view. We have more stuff, more health, more technology. But the treadmill of expectations means we are just running in place.
We get the penthouse, but we lose our minds over the dishwasher.
Then we looked at the biological view. We are trapped by our genetics. Our serotonin set points keep bouncing us back to the baseline, no matter if we win the lottery or lose a leg.
We are designed to strive, not to be satisfied.
Then the meaning view. We cope with the drudgery of life by creating stories, collective delusions about why it all matters. Whether it's God or the stock market, we need a why to survive the how.
And finally, the Buddhist view, that the entire pursuit of happiness, defined as pleasant feelings, is a trap. And the only way to win is to stop playing the game.
It really makes you look at history differently. We focus on the what, the wars, the inventions, but the how it felt is a total mystery.
It's a massive gap. We are only just beginning to ask the right questions. We have filled libraries with books about how we conquered the world, but we have almost nothing on how we conquered our own misery. Maybe that's the next frontier for history.
So here is the final thought I want to leave you with today. It's a bit provocative, and it ties back to everything we've discussed.
Let's hear it.
We spend our whole lives trying to check our emotional temperature. Am I happy right now? Is this job making me happy? Is this relationship making me happy? We treat happiness like it's a destination we're supposed to arrive at.
The happily ever after.
Exactly. But what if that insistence on feeling happy is actually the main reason we are miserable? What if the greatest barrier to contentment is the expectation that we should be content?
If we stopped checking the thermometer every 5 minutes, maybe we'd realize the weather isn't so bad after all.
Something to mull over the next time you're stuck in traffic in your air-conditioned car feeling totally miserable.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us. See you next time.